Hey, I'm Byron Miller, Psycho Bass, and you're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com.
Hi everyone, John Liebman here. You're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com. We are here on location today in sunny Hollywood, California with the one and only Byron Miller. How you doing, Byron?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good to see you.
We finally making this happen.
Yes.
You
and
chased me down. Huh?
I knew I liked you right from the start because you are from
Detroit, by the way of Highland Park. I have to put the Highland Park because they will get mad at me if I don't mention them.
Well, you don't want the Highland Park people to get mad at you.
They're dangerous.
Well, let's talk about those early days. Detroit, as we both know, has such an incredibly rich musical heritage. What was it like for you growing up? Your earliest exposure to music? Did your parents play a lot of records? Did you have brothers and sisters and instruments in the house or things like that? Or how would you describe your musical upbringing?
We had a piano. My grandfather was a minister. My mom used to play on Sunday and make us sit there and watch her. I wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to be a football player or a basketball player, but that didn't happen. But I learned how to play bass in church as a young boy. And then I got away from it and went to Highland Park High, was playing quarterback on the football team and broke my foot and couldn't play no more sports. So my mom bought me a bass, and the rest is history. I taught myself how to play it.
Well, what was it about the bass? I mean, you had a piano in the house. You could have picked any instrument. Why the bass?
It was the easiest. I thought it was the easiest thing to gravitate to because you didn't have to play chords, and I was self-taught. I didn't take lessons, so one note was better than 3 or 4 notes. So that's why I started playing the bass.
Okay. Did you discover that there's a little more to it than that, or it was harder than what originally met the eye?
After a while, I did.
After probably a short while.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
But growing up in Motown, I learned how to play by putting on James Jamerson records, Motown records. Going down to the Motown Review and seeing Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye and all of those people. So, we had growing up in Detroit was an advantage for me to be self-taught because I had so much music around me.
Well, other than James Jamerson, who were some of your other bass influences once you first got into it?
Chuck Rainey, Ron Carter, Buster Williams, Ted Waterhouse, who was a local cat from Highland Park, Stanley Clark. I met Stanley back in Atlanta. I heard Return to Forever, and he blew my mind by what he was doing on that bass. It sent me home, and I've just been practicing ever since. I can't catch up with Stanley yet, so I had to do my own thing.
Well, you mentioned Ron, and you mentioned Stanley and Buster. Did you ever play upright?
I never played. I played standing upright, like this.
Okay.
No, but no, I never played upright. I'm just an electric player.
Well, how did your career get rolling? What kind of stuff were you doing initially?
I grew up playing funk. I played with a group out of Detroit named the Fabulous Counts, and that was the first record that I played on.
How old were you? I
was 16. I started playing the bass when I was a freshman in high school. And I was 15, 16 years old then. And then in Detroit, I used to sneak in a club called Watts Mozambique.
Watts Club Mozambique.
About that? And Roy Ayers would always come to Watts Mozambique. And myself and Ricky Lawson, who's up in heaven now, my best buddy, we would sneak in there and sit in with Roy. And once we both got out of high school, Roy took us on the road. Went to New York and started playing with Roy. And that's actually how he launched my career in the music business. The first record was Mystic Voyage. And that was the first time I heard myself on the radio. So it kind of blew my mind. Me and Ricky took off from there.
Well, there are a lot of very impressive names on your resume. I want to ask you about at least one. George Duke. Tell me about your association with him. And
George Duke? Yeah. Duke. Well, I have to tell you the story. I was in Seattle, Washington, playing with Roy Ayers, and this drummer, I don't think a lot of people heard of him, and Dougal Chancellor came in the club with Carlos Santana, and they were checking out Roy. And Carlos left the club. He left his road manager and sent his road manager to ask me if I wanted to join Santana. So I ended up joining Santana, becoming good friends with Dougal, who was recording already with Duke. And Dougal called Duke and said, I think I found a bass player for the band. And Duke called me up to come record with him. And I recorded with him from the age of 17 all the way up until he passed away.
Tell me about working with him. What was that like?
It was like heaven. It was the band that I played with, he wrote the music to fit the band. So he would never give you a piece of music that was too difficult, but he still would try you, I never knew anything about odd time signatures because I could only count to 4. But now I could play in 7 and 6 because of George Duke and Dougal. So musically, he just took me around the world musically, to Brazil. I did the Brazilian Love Affair with him in Rio de Janeiro. It's kind of like his bass player for most of his career, but he started branching out. When he started playing with Stanley Clarke and they started doing those things, that kind of forced me to start doing my own thing, and he did that on purpose. I think I'm the only bass player he ever had on retainer because he didn't want me to play with anyone else.
Got to make you feel good.
Oh, it was great, and then I got paid all year round. Yeah.
Well, you've been out in L.A. for how long now?
Wow, I'm about to tell my age. Yeah. Since '74.
Wow.
I moved out here when I was playing with Santana, and then met George, and I've been here ever since. I love Detroit, but it don't snow here. I love that. I love that.
Well, what's keeping you busy these days, Byron?
This dude named Psycho Bass.
Tell me about him.
He's my alter ego. He was sent from another planet to say the funk. Yeah, so he's real funky.
Yeah, tell me more.
You can buy the CD on iTunes. The last song that I ever played with George Duke is on my record, and it's called, which one? It's called Oh Really, and it's a song that he wrote. It's kind of funky. That was the last time me and George and Dougal played as a trio together. And that was in my studio, and we just had a ball. Psycho Bass is a fun record.
It is. I enjoy it very much, and there's it sounds like your Detroit roots kind of come out in that record too. Am I right?
Yeah, but they never went anywhere. When you're self-taught, you kind of play like that anyway.
Yeah.
So that's the way I play. I know more music and more theory, so I can add to the rawness, but I'm never trying to change. I got to stay funky.
Tell me about your equipment. What are you playing?
I'm playing MTD Basses, the Psycho Bass. I have a 4-string that Michael Tobias and myself put together, and also 2 different 5-strings. And then I have a bunch of old Fender vintage basses. I have 62 Jazz.
Ooh, beautiful.
I have a 1960 P bass, which is a reach for it bass. That's what I played on the song Reach For It. We kind of souped the bass up a little bit, but...
Well, were you doubling that line with the synth?
No, that's all me.
That's all you?
Yeah.
Wow.
No synth there.
I'm glad I asked.
No synth, no Bootsy, no Stanley Clarke. If the word in the street was it was Stanley Clarke, it wasn't. Then it was Bootsy. No, it wasn't. It was Byron Miller from Holland Park, Michigan, Detroit.
Yeah, good
yes.
for you.
Yes.
What kind of strings do you play?
I'm playing barred. No, I play different ones. I had, different basses have different sounds. I use D. Markley on some of my basses. I use the Marcus Miller Dunlap string, which I'm supposed to be talking to them today about doing my own strings. So we're just going to keep it. I use Dunlap strings, yes.
And how about amps?
Using EBS right now.
Okay.
And that's the best sounding amp I've heard to this date. But I have a couple of amp companies sending me amps next week for me to check out.
All
see.
Right. Well, you let us know what if you make a change. Well, how about the future, Byron? What else would you like to do you haven't accomplished yet?
I'm just touring and promoting my psycho bass record. That's all I want to do. I don't want to join another band. I don't want to play behind singers no more. You know, I played with Luther Vandross for 16 years. I did Marvin Gaye's last tour before he died. I played with Shaka. I'm just trying to be psycho bass now.
Okay.
I'm selling records, and I'm old enough to do my thing now.
Well, there you go. Yeah, keep doing it. Last question, Byron. What would you be if you were not a bass player? Something outside of music.
That's scary. Well, I would hope I wouldn't be in jail coming up in Detroit like a
I
bunch
hope
of my
so
buddies.
too.
I don't know. I don't know what I would do if it wasn't for music, because that's all I've ever done.
All right.
That's a good question to kind of think about. I probably would have went to college and become a doctor or an attorney. I have a gift of gab, so law might have been the thing.
All right. Well, very good. Well, I'm still glad things worked out the way they did.
Thank God.
Byron, great finally getting to interview you one-on-one like this. We've been talking about it forever.
And homeboy from Detroit, yes.
That's right. On location in sunny Hollywood, California with Mr. Psycho Bass Byron Miller. I'm John Liebman. You're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com.